word, in every line after line, rhyme after rhyme. Upon a time, a kid with paper and pen, writing a poem again. Another track about love between a boy and a girl. The boy given an A, ring with a beautiful pearl, and anything in the world to make a happy in turn. A miracle fairy tale, but now the kid looking back, walking down memory lane, finally falling apart from all the heartbreaking pain. A heart now broken in half, with all the hurting heartache and all the banging headache. With only faith in faith, without any hope and belief, it would be fatal to wait. But if you do have the will, then you will find a way. How can you then have hope in the world alone? How can you then have hope in the world alone? How can you then have hope in the world alone? How can you then have hope in the world alone? Book after book, filled with note after note, the teen wrote every thought and thought about what it wrote. It carved out how it felt and then felt every quote. It all begun on that day, it all begun with your look. If we'd continue that way, you would be living for two, I could be feeding for three, we may be feeding a few, or maybe even for five. But now we're working for food, in every month of the year, in every day of the week. We're giving out the idea that now we are giving in, that now we have given up and given off a defeat, rather than giving an arm, a leg, a neck or a tear, to go out with a bang when going down without fear. How can you then have hope in the world alone? How can you then have hope in the world alone? How can you then have hope in the world alone? How can you then have hope in the world alone? Back to the drawing board, now all alone in the whole of the world. Paint after paint and pad after pad, happily ever after the lad, becoming hurriedly old, now no longer young, rapidly all grown up. From a kid to a teen, from a teen to a man. But yet will they believe? Will they believe in a love? Will they believe it enough if it fell from above onto the top of their lap and picked them up by the hand? Will they believe in their heart, claiming emphatically that it looked and found the other half? Having been feeling apart, having been looking for time, having been looking from far, then it finally found the one. How can you then have hope in the world alone? How can you then have hope in the world alone? How can you then have hope in the world alone? How can you then have hope in the world alone? How can you then have hope in the world alone? How can you then have hope in the world alone?